Welcome to the Imperial Newsstand. I'm Alan Imperial. Today, we're going to be going over what could possibly be 45 days of worsening coronavirus. So, my governor, Andrew Cuomo, stated today coronavirus peak in New York could be in 45 days. Now, what does he have to say in that time? What will that look like? Speaking to the members of the press, Cuomo said that health experts had predicted that the state would need to devote as many as 55,000 to 110,000 hospital beds to the crisis, including tens of thousands in intensive care units. We're entering a new phase in all of this. We've talked about early detection, we've talked about testing, we talked about containment. You see those numbers going up. That means you're moving towards a mitigation phase, Cuomo said Tuesday. The concept is right. Flatten the curve. Slow the spread so the healthcare system can handle it, he added. But I don't think of a curve. I think of a wave, and the wave is going to break. And the wave is going to break on the hospital system. That's actually the best way to put the flattening the curve uh, statement people have been going on. It's not about how many people will get infected, it's how large uh, those people who are infected come into the hospital. And what he's basically saying is if we have people get sick over longer periods of time, it will help our healthcare system. Because imagine if 55,000 people had to go to the hospital on one day versus over the span of 5 months. Now, right now in New York, we are in a, I guess, 15-day, 2-week period of, well, the whole nation, I should say, is under a 15-day period of social distancing, where we have to keep about 6 feet away. I've talked about in previous videos how movie theaters, concert halls are closed down, but that might not be the worst of it because, uh, as the New York Times is reporting, coronavirus in New York City, drastic shelter in place may be next. Uh, it is, this is by Andy Newman. It is a difficult decision, Mayor de Bill de Blasio said in an emotional address at City Hall. If that moment came, there are tremendous substantial challenges that would have to be met, and I don't take this lightly at all. Uh, what he's talking about is the possibility of an order to shelter in place. It's one step below quarantine in the seriousness of the coronavirus response. He continued. What is going to happen with folks who have no money? How are they going to get food? How are they going to get medicines? Are we going to ensure in dynamic like that supplies are sufficient for our population? De Blasio, Mr. De Blasio said he believed a decision on such an order should be made in the next 48 hours as evidence that the virus had already upended the lives of millions of New Yorkers became obvious. Uh, One thing that they don't want to do is put us into a full-blown quarantine. Uh, let's see. The mayor said, there is not going to be any quarantine. No one is going to lock you in your home. No one is going to tell you you can't leave the city. Oh, this is the governor. The governor said in an interview on New York One that is not going to happen. And that's great that we're not going to be quarantined. But what happens if we have a shelter in place order where we're really not supposed to leave a certain area, like in New Rochelle? Well, thankfully, we have bipartisan support. Oh, this is talking about how shelter in place is already going on in San Francisco, but I don't want to talk about that. What I want to talk about is how Tulsi Gabbard and Alexandria Ocasio Cortez back universal basic income in response to coronavirus. Let's see. Here we go. Rep. Alexandria Ocasio Cortez and Rep. Tulsi Gabbard are calling for universal basic income, also known as UBI, in response to the growing COVID-19 coronavirus pandemic. Gabbard introduced legislation Friday that would provide a UBI payment of $1,000 per month to every American adult until the Department of Health and Human Services declare the outbreak is over. The coronavirus pandemic has created a threat to the health and well-being of the American people as well as to our country's economic stability. While some in Washington are focused on taking care of Wall Street, everyday Americans get left behind. That's wrong, said Gabbard in a statement. I've introduced a resolution that prioritizes people so our economic relief is placed directly into the hands of every American rather than getting stuck in bureaucracy or ending up in the pockets of big corporations, she added. This was said 4 days ago on March 13th in Newsweek by Alia Slisko. Now, Andrew Yang, uh, this is in Time by Abby Velasquez. Ouch. Sorry, man. Anyway, uh, the article from Time is I'll be a very happy man. Will the coronavirus outbreak turn Andrew Yang's 1000 promise into reality? When entrepreneur Andrew Yang announced he was running for president, many considered him to be an unorthodox candidate. As a successful entrepreneur who attended an Ivy League law school and founded Venture for America, a national fellowship program for aspiring business owners, he shared similar credentials to president candidates before him. But he was facing off against more than a dozen members of Congress and Obama administration alumni as someone who has never been elected to public office himself. And a key component of his platform was considered to be a particularly fringe idea: universal basic income. The premise of his proposal, which he dubbed the freedom dividend, would put would have put $1,000 in the pockets of all United States citizens over the age of 18 every single month. Now, on Tuesday, Treasury Secretary Steven Mnuchin said the cash infusion could happen swiftly. We are looking at sending checks to Americans immediately, he told reporters. Americans need cash now, and the president wants to get cash now. And I mean now, in the next 2 weeks. I'm incredibly excited by the fact that our government seems like they're on the cusp of doing the common sense thing to help people get through this coronavirus crisis by putting cash straight into a family's hands. Yang tells Time of the UBI adjacent solutions that have been proposed. Uh, so, a Republican Senator Mitt Romney proposed on Monday sending all adults a one-time check for $1,000. So, whether it's Tulsi Gabbard, AOC, Andrew Yang, President Trump, or Mitt Romney, it seems that we have bipartisan support for universal basic income. As somebody who thought this wasn't a good idea before the crisis, I think this is a great temporary solution. All of these are great temporary solutions, whether it's the 15-day Slow the Spread campaign by the federal COVID-19 task force, where we want to have social distancing, whether it's a shelter in place order that's happening in many cities like San Francisco and possibly New York City in the coming days, or even in New Jersey, where you have shelter in place orders or soft curfews at 8 p.m. till 5 a.m. in the morning. I think these are all great temporary uh, legislative laws that are happening, but these should all be temporary. I don't want these to stay forever. Whether it's UBI, which helps every American, whether it's shelter in place, or whether it's these curfews or quarantines, I think we have to remember all of these things are temporary because of the extraordinary situation that's happening around the country and around the world. I'm happy that we are coming to the point where people are thinking about solutions to these problems and not just how to react to these problems. Because if we have a 15-day slow the spread around the country, and in my home state, we end up having the worst of it coming in 45 days, which is 3 times longer than the 15 days proposed of slow the spread. I think it's important to uh, make sure that people don't go hungry, and the universal basic income is a great way to do it. That's my thoughts for the day. If uh, if you have any comments or suggestions, let me know down in the comments. And please like, share, and subscribe. This is Alan Imperial signing off.